I'm Chef Tiffany Nicole, and welcome to A Recipe for Life. Today's guests are Staci and Marcus, my cousins, the newlyweds, the Heglers. So I hope that y'all like this. As I was saying before we got into this, I don't just be cooking. Y'all know I don't just be cooking like people think I probably do. But because I love y'all, I went ahead and made y'all something from scratch because I really was gonna make them barbecue chicken nachos, and Marcus was really not here for them.
Yeah.
So
I'm actually excited because I love chicken ramen. It's very good. You did your thing.
Good.
Who knew?
So today we have Staci and Marcus. So what we do here at Recipe for Life is we talk about folks' journeys, what I found in my personal journey with entrepreneurship and just in life in general, becoming a mother, becoming a wife, is that I was always inspired by hearing other folks' stories about kind of, what they've gone through, and how they've kind of overcome different obstacles in life and how they've gotten to where they are today. So for me, I've always kind of leaned into 5 foundational principles to kind of guide my life and try to kind of create buckets of, priorities and things that kind of just matter to me. And so for me, those are faith, family, legacy, love, and community, and food. So what I would like to first ask y'all, first I want to thank y'all for being here. So before we actually even go into this conversation, just for the sake of the folks that are kind of joining into this conversation, I would like to ask you all kind of about yourself, a little bit about your journey. Staci is the assistant principal at Legacy Charter School. Marcus is a military veteran. And so I would like them to kind of just share some of their journey, and so people can kind of know, who you are, how you got to where you are. This conversation is built on transparency, so no answer is wrong. You can go as deep or as shallow as you feel comfortable. So.
Okay. Well, I'm obviously Staci, Tiffany's cousin, my favorite cousin. Period. So a little bit about my journey. I am an educator. I'm from Tulsa. I'm a North Tulsa native. I like to say I'm a Black educator in North Tulsa for a reason. One of my core values is community, so it's very important for me to really pour into the same community that fostered so much of my development. As you know, growing up, we definitely had some struggles, and I think it kind of motivated me to be ambitious, to really negate any kind of stereotypes. I think growing up and going to not the best schools, because I definitely went to Monroe, and we were counted out. And so that definitely made me want to go harder. I think I fell into a lot of the places that I was in. I didn't want to go to Booker T, but I hit my acceptance letter. If it wasn't for Kendall and showing my mama the acceptance letter at grandma's house, I would have been in McLean and Central with my friends. Not to say there's nothing wrong with McLean or Central.
I did not know the story.
Yeah, I wanted to go to McLean. I wanted to go to Central, but it's so funny. I think how God puts you into places and connects you to people. And I think that I was connected to a right group of friends who are still our forever friends, right? And so they started to, mainly you, duh. And I think that is how I started to hear more about college. I was not taking school seriously, but all my friends was like, girl, we about our business. I was like, oh, let me get about my business. We going to college, let me start looking into some things and getting that different exposure. And I think that just continued my journey. And I think I have continued to be favored and connected to the right people that allow me or who push me into my purpose.
So is education your first avenue that you wanted to pursue?
No, I wanted to be a VJ. I wanted to like
Free and AJ.
I wanted to be a BJ. I always thought I was really funny, right? I always thought I could be like charismatic in front of a camera or very like improv. So my major is broadcasting and journalism, and I applied to, I remember graduating and I was keeping count, I applied to 37 jobs.
Oh wow.
I had like 4 interviews with all the news stations here, and I could never land a job. And so I ended up going into mental health court because it was like the first salary job that I had, and I loved it. But like I realized how much I love serving people, and how much I loved community. And so then one of my friends was like, hey, we got a job opening as a teacher. I think you could do it. Like, you seem like you're a good mom. Thank you, question mark. And so I was like, cool, let me get into the classroom. And so I got into the classroom and I fell in love. And I have been an advocate for education ever since.
That is awesome. I'm learning something new.
Yeah.
Marcus.
Well,
Yes.
since Staci took up most of the time, I'll keep mine short. I'm Marcus. I'm originally from Arkansas. Transplanted here in Tulsa.
Because of me.
I was like, why you in Tulsa?
Yeah.
Because of her. And kind of just have learned to not really stress about things and kind of let God lead me to see where exactly where I'm supposed to be. Hence why I'm here in Tulsa. Because I had this miraculous plan coming out of high school that obviously didn't work.
Can you tell the miraculous plan?
So my plan was I was going to go to Jackson State. I was going to major in kinesiology and go to the East Coast somewhere, be a physical therapist, get on with the NBA team, and work my way up to be a trainer in the NBA. I had a couple of friends who were doing some physical training stuff at a couple of the state universities in Mississippi. So that was my plan, but that didn't really work out.
Why?
Because I didn't go to class.
That's
and to
an
get a
important
degree,
thing.
Yeah.
to get a degree, you got to go to class, and I was
Turns
at
out.
the Jackson State University, where it was a lot of things to occupy your time.
Yeah.
So that led to my dad coming down and saying that, hey, I'm not paying for another semester of school. And me being the smart aleck I am, I'm like, I got it. I went to the financial aid office, and they're like, sir, you're suspended.
Oh,
You did not come back here unless you got cash in hand. So I packed up, I cried, 3.5 hours driving back to Arkansas, and I kind of took some time to kind of figure it out. And my dad, he had called up a favor to give me a little work study job, and that's kind of where I fell into my love for numbers, and just being able to problem solve and figure out things. I was financial aid. I worked in a financial aid office, and I did that for about 2 years. And then after I realized I was kind of tired of school, I was going to the military. I was in the Air Force for a little bit, and I realized that didn't work out. And so I came back to Arkansas for a little bit, and I had another miraculous plan. I was gonna give me a job on a Fortune 500 company, sit there for a couple of years, kind of entice Staci to maybe leave Tulsa. As you see, that plan didn't work out. And so I, my first year and a half, couldn't find a job. I stayed, I tried to figure things out. I applied for every job possible. Went to school, was getting my bachelor's degree at the time, and just couldn't land a job. I finally landed my first job, and I was there for about 8 months, and I wasn't making enough money. So I decided to pack up, go to Kansas City, and I was in Kansas City for about 2 years.
And some change.
It was 2 years.
That's a connection for me. What made you just pack up to go to Kansas City?
I worked in Kansas City before. When my last job in the Air Force was in Kansas City, so I was kind of familiar with the area. And so I said, hey, I'll go back to somewhere I'm familiar with.
Oh, okay.
So I went back to Kansas City. And then going back, I got a job, and I kind of got put on the clock. And
Like LMA shot clock.
By who, shall I ask?
And so I was there for 2 years, and then I proposed to Staci last year. We got married this year.
Before the year was even out.
And
Well, right when the year was out.
9 months.
Come on.
And I moved.
She said, I'm not getting engaged to be engaged, okay?
Period. We waited long enough.
Yeah.
Can't you hear the story?
And so that's why we are where we are today.
I think he forgot to say, because he is a veteran, staying connected to a government job is how, like, he got to Kansas City and stuff like that.
Oh, okay.
That's true.
And how he got to Oklahoma. So trying to stay connected to government, the federal government, working there is very important.
With that said, since we kind of went through your journeys a little bit and just kind of how you've gotten to where you are, who would you say then was the most like influential person throughout your journey?
Oh,
Or just, I mean, and so this question is always a little difficult, right? Because from season to season, they can look different. But just someone that you just like, hey, this really stuck out to me, you know, just off like kind of the top of the head.
it's so difficult to like narrow it down to like one person. I think that I've had like different people to deposit love and compassion and wisdom in different seasons of my life. So I definitely can, you know, go with your typical answer, but it's not typical like my mama.
Mm-hmm.
I think I get my work ethic from my mama. You can tell, like, I will work non-stop. I will keep, this is probably the first year I don't have 2 jobs. So I'm a worker. Shut up. Because I do have a husband, okay? But even with, it's tempting, right? Because I definitely, so I would definitely say my mom, I got my work ethic, my like heart for serving people, like my selflessness. I definitely think I can get that from my mom as well. It's just different people. It's definitely hard for me to just name one person.
You can say me, it's fine.
Yeah, Tiffany, duh. Where would I be without Tiffany? Where would I be without Tiffany? But if I am being honest, like about education, I think the person who poured the most into me, who I learned the most from, is Carlisha. Like she was one of the most influential. Carlisha Williams Bradley. She's like one of the most influential people and has a lot to do with who I am, right? So if you know, think about how she sows into women, like I am a product of her sowing into me, pouring into me, pushing me into my purpose, making me be mindful of how I carry myself, and just very, very, very wise at a young age, and it really pushed me. And in return, I feel like I tried to give that knowledge to other women who surround me.
Yes, I agree with this sentiment. She's wonderful. Marcus?
Just a real quick thought and thinking about it, probably my parents. Just them always having their door open when these plans have fallen through and opening. No questions asked, just come back, figure it out. And when you figure it out, learn and keep it moving. I still to this day call my dad for every little thing that goes on. Anything and everything, I call him. And so that's kind of where I get my ground and level and the understanding that everything is gonna work out. My mom, she's probably the most selfless human being that you'll ever meet. And so at times, that's where I get my giving from. Just because she doesn't ask any questions, she'll give you the shirt off her back in the rain to make sure that you're dry and she's wet, because she doesn't think about herself, she thinks about everybody else. So just seeing those two balance out, it's kind of helped me and made me understand that when you're in your life, it's not about you, it's about how you take care of the people that mean the most to you, the people that matter to you, the people who count on you and don't count on you. If it's a phone call, if it's needing something, they've kind of just instilled that in me. My dad would get on the highway right now if we called him and said there was something that we needed.
They really are incredible.
So it's just seeing that, understanding that with all the kids, not just me, I'm the favorite, but with all the kids,
let that be known.
they do that. So it's just kind of one of those things where I've kind of understood that that's all I've seen, that's all I know. It's just to not stress about things, because it'll all work out, and not worry about when you do something. That God's gonna take care of you. So it's just those things, just seeing them live it, learn it, eat, sleep, and drink it, even to this day, is kind of the biggest probably inspiration that I have.
I feel like they have a free pass to heaven. Like his parents, they like Jesus answer their phone calls and texts.
Direct line.
It don't even ring.
It was like, oh hey,
You look
Hegler,
right?
Oh,
You
duh. It's my kids.
Right.
Danielle and Sheila. Hey, how y'all doing? Let me know when you're at the gate.
That makes so much sense though. I actually, I guess it was 2 days ago, talking to Staci, or maybe I was talking to Staci. I'm not talking to my mama, but I was telling her, I was like, Staci is so blessed, because to be able to merge two families is not always easy. And I know there comes, challenges or whatever, but just to see the other day when Kobe had her birthday party, and how y'all was just, giving her a hard time because her little boyfriend was over here. But I was just thinking, to have a man who, this is not biologically, your child, but you care that much, that is a huge blessing. So to say, that to describe how your parents are, it makes so much sense, and actually just learned that. I didn't know. I never met your parents, so I think that's really
That's
awesome.
so funny that you say that, because his, when we first got together, I did not understand, blended. They take blended families to a new level.
Yeah.
To a completely new level. And it kind of, pushed me to be more, more open to being blended. It is amplified on everybody is welcome. They have an open door to whomever they've crossed paths with, whether you still with them or not, whether whatever. It's everybody comes.
She's still over here.
Yeah, she still come over here. He can still come over here. Don't even gotta knock. Just hey, how y'all doing? This ain't awkward at all.
Hey girls, Christmas morning.
But it's so effortless. It's their thing. And so in a word, that's why I say they really are God's love, in human form, because they really do exhibit that, for real.
Yeah. The funny thing about Staci and Marcus, I guess, is that they literally have the Will and Jada lifestyle. Shout out to Danielle, who's also a part of the family. He wants to be so bad. Can I please come over?
He want to be and so bad.
Christmas party and I'm present with y'all. That's what
but we do. But that's funny that you say that, because that is a thing. We would definitely still be completely okay.
Yeah.
With both of our children's parents coming over, opening up gifts. We do that.
Yeah, that is dope. Because some people can't make that happen. So many people can't get over themselves. And I don't have any personal experience, but I hear that it's not easy, and I can only imagine that it's not. So as me being a chef, I always like to ask this question, because I think that this is such the essence of so many things that I guess memories that we have growing up is centered around food. So I always ask everybody what is their favorite meal and why, because a lot of times what we're finding is that your favorite meal is tied to so much more than just the meal. It's like, this is my favorite meal, but this is why. Because I always say, like, I can make some bomb macaroni and cheese. I can make some bomb greens. But if Grandma Frankie make them, it's going to be better no matter what. Like, I don't care if I sit in there for hours copying every single little thing she does. Hers going to taste better. But it's because it's my grandma. It's because of the stories that center around those meals that she prepared for us. So what would y'all say then to that is like, this is, I mean, I'm pretty sure me and Staci are probably similar.
You know my favorite meal. I'm like Marcus start.
I probably have two. The first one is just potatoes. Skilled
Like
potatoes.
what? Oh, okay.
So
Oh, that is
my parents, because I am adopted, my parents tried to make sure that I spend as much time with my grandparents as I possibly could. So when I was younger, they would always say, "Hey, I'm gonna run to your aunt's house. I'll be back in a little bit to get you." And a little bit was like 2 days later.
A little bit they mean 2 days. Like,
yeah, so it was like the whole time I'd just be like, where my mama at? Like, where my daddy? Where my mama? And my grandma, her and my grandpa stayed out in the country, so it wasn't like you were gonna walk there because they stayed 45 minutes away. So my grandma every morning would get up, and my cousin's room was right next to the kitchen. So every morning at sunrise, I hear her in there with the skillet on. You smell the grease, smell the bacon. Shit, her in there making homemade biscuits and potatoes. And so that would wake me up, and I would go in while everybody was asleep and just watch her and just see what she was doing. She had the little box stereo on the stove or right by the stove, and she just be cooking, listening to gospel music. And so her first thing was always, "You want to try the potatoes?" Like, yeah. So
of course I
she'd
do.
give me some,
I'd be honored.
and everybody be asleep, and I just be like, "Okay." And she's like, "You want some more?" I'd be like, "Yeah." So before I knew it, it started to become a thing where I would get my own pan.
Because you was taking
I
portion
was
after
sharing.
portion.
Yeah, I was like, big case. Like,
Shout out my dog, Big K.
I would just go in and just get them. So that was my most fondest memory, and one of my best recipes and the best foods that I ever tasted was just sitting her, not watching her use a measuring cup, not watch her worry about cutting her fingers up, not using a cutting board. Just
Did she used to peel them with a knife?
Yeah, with a knife.
Yes.
Just put that on the knife and just cock it back and peel it in and cut it. And so I'd be like, oh, like, so that was my, those are like my intimate moments with my grandma, because I was so worried about everything else. And my parents were like, you gotta learn, you gotta meet your cousins, you gotta hang out with your cousins. So it was twofold. I appreciate those moments now, because just sitting back watching her, remembering her, and those things that she did was kind of cool. And I look now, sometimes Cameron will be in the kitchen, Denver will be in the kitchen, Casey will be in the kitchen. They'll just ask me, like, what you doing? Can I help? So it kind of brings back those memories.
Yeah, because you cook too.
Yeah, he does.
I mean, I'm not you or anything.
Hey, but you could.
I will,
People say that.
I will pop open a box and pour it in there.
Oh, please, friend. He make homemade biscuits.
Yeah, like
we don't have buttermilk. He be like, we got some distilled vinegar in there.
Maybe.
Yeah, so that he does make homemade biscuits from scratch.
And you make
potatoes and
Bidia.
Brother Bidia.
Deacon Bidia.
Deacon Bidia. Yeah, he makes it. He cook.
I know, because
he
people be eating that ain't meat all the time over there. Because you don't be ever telling me it's crazy. But anyway, how we was cousins, bruh.
That's wild.
Crazy story.
Okay, so
Cornbread and
yeah,
sweet potatoes and
what else? Say the last thing.
Okay.
No. No, so like my favorite, I have two. So one of my favorite dishes, if it's tied to a specific memory, is, I don't even know what it's called. It's like peach toast that my mama used to make.
Yes.
Okay.
Brittany just told me about this.
So it is so good. And I don't know if my mama made it because we were struggling. I don't know if she made it because it was like a delicacy from when she was growing up. I don't know what it is, but me and my sister would love when my mama made peach toast. We would literally, if we seen the peaches, we would get up and be like, oh my God, like it was better than pancakes, it was better than waffles. And anytime my sister and I want to feel nostalgic or just like want that moment, like we'll get up and we'll have peaches and toast. My sister probably made it for me or made it for us like maybe a year ago, and it was just like a good, like it just brings back a good feeling of like childhood and the moments that are like really good moments and the parts of your childhood that you just like, I would relive this day anytime. So it's just nothing but toast, and it's like peaches from canned peaches, almost like cobbler filling, but like without the cornstarch or whatever, and you put it on your toast, and it's so bomb. And we love it. And then, of course, dressing.
Yes,
dressing is my favorite.
Dressing is good.
Dressing, sweet potatoes, and then, but everybody in the family, of course, knows that cornbread is my favorite.
They see a whole pan.
Make me my whole pan of my own, probably because I loved it, but like I think I loved it more when Papa used to be like, there goes Staci Brown, downtown Brown, come to get her cornbread. It made me like want to live up to my reputation. Like, I want to get my cornbread because I'm downtown Brown and I'm getting down on my cornbread. So like I used to love when we had cornbread, and like everybody, like as soon as I came in, it's almost like they made it for me. Like my grandma, my aunties, we got cornbread, Staci, we got cornbread. So everybody knew that was my thing. So
what's so funny about that is that I used to like love greens and cornbread, and Staci was like, ugh, like he got her way to be like, greens is nasty. Like, I know she will eat them now if I make them.
I just started eating
a little bit, Marcus.
This year.
She doing better because before she'd be like, these stink. Like Staci, they're green, bro. Like,
I would hate it. I was like, how could you eat them?
Extra.
Okay.
What is something now in retrospect that you're here today that you would tell yourself earlier in your journey, or just your younger self that was in that struggling stage? Because I find that, you know, a lot of times, especially living like this microwavable society that we live in, a lot of times at young ages, 25, we look up like, I'm a failure, I'm not a millionaire already. And it's like, you 25, baby, you got some time.
Yeah.
And I know for me, I was that way. I remember, you know, trying to figure out what I actually wanted to do, what direction I wanted to go in, trying to, you know, I was married at a young age, so trying to navigate, you know, being a wife and being a mom and all these things, and ultimately just, you know, from a work perspective, feeling like I was failing, I don't know what I'm doing, and all this. So, how would you encourage yourself at that point in life that could also, in turn, encourage someone else that's maybe in that stage of life that's trying to just kind of figure it out?
Oh, that's a good one. You still processing?
Nah. So for me, one of the biggest things I would tell my younger self is it's okay to fail. It's okay. Before you know what you're gonna do, you gotta figure out how you're gonna get there. And it's not always a straight line. Nipsey said, before you run your race, you gotta find your pace. And that's kind of one of the things that I've kind of learned to live by, is that no matter what everybody else is doing, no matter how fast everybody else is going, they don't matter to what you're doing and what you're doing in your life. And so I think at times we worry about where everybody else is, that we lose focus of what we're supposed to do. And because we compare ourselves so much, we think about, I'm not where they are at. Not realizing that they probably feel like they aren't where they should be.
Man, that's real.
So just understanding that I can fail as long as I get back up, as long as I get back on my grind, as long as I understand that this is not the end. That I still got a lifetime. Like you said, at 25, you think about 10 years ago, how crazy you thought that your life was compared to
like life can get even crazy. Lord, like I got something crazy for y'all. Like,
oh my
that was cool.
Juice,
right? Juice like hold my sandals. Like, oh Lord,
hold my sandals.
I got something for y'all. Like, Lord, we didn't want it.
We didn't ask for any of it.
Right.
So we get so caught up that we lose sight of what we want to do. Like I tell Staci this all the time. Like I feel like I didn't do what I was supposed to do. Like even after I did everything with the military and me getting my degree, like she always pushed like, hey, go do what you want to do. You still want to go be physical therapist, go do that. And in that moment I was like, no, I can't. I got family to provide for. That's gonna take this amount of years. That's gonna take this, and so I kind of put that on the back burner. And so I love what I do, but that came at a cost of what did I really want to do. I learned that numbers were my niche. Numbers were my go-to. So I learned to.
Cause what's your profession?
So I work for the federal government, but I got both of my masters in finance and in forensic accounting.
Okay, come on, forensic accounting. This man is educated. We love educated king. Okay, we're on a risk for life.
So that was kind of one of my things is just figuring that out and like going back to my dad, calling him in the middle of the night and being like, man, I don't know what I'm doing. Okay. Like, I knew what I was doing at 25, but you aren't me.
Right.
Stop living up to
that's
who I am.
Right there, Lord
you
God.
gonna fail, and you gotta be okay with failing. And I was like, yeah, but I'm gonna let y'all down. He's like, you're not letting me down. I've lived my life.
Right.
And now that I've lived my life, my job is to just make sure that I give you the guidance and give you the spiritual guidance and the words so that you can live yours. Whatever you do, you're gonna be fine. And I think that alleviated a lot of stress because I walked around so long worrying about failing my parents.
Right.
They didn't care.
Right.
But I didn't know that because I didn't have that conversation because
Right.
I just held them on such a high pedestal that I didn't realize that they have lived, they have made their mistakes.
Right.
And they don't expect for me to, my mama probably expects for me to be like them. But my daddy is like, listen, y'all are who y'all are.
Right.
We gonna love y'all regardless. Y'all still got a home. Just when you figure it out, make sure you tap us all in so we can know how to support you. You ain't gotta do it on your own. But let us know how we can support you, and I always know that I'm not gonna tell you what you always want to hear, but I'm gonna tell you what you need to hear in those moments. You can be mad, you can get upset, you can say, all right, I don't want to hear this. You can pout, you can stomp, you can do all that. But at the end of the day, those words still ring true to where you are in life. And once you figure that out, it makes it a lot easier just to accept failure. So we're taught that failure is bad. You're not supposed to fail.
Right.
You're supposed to be perfect at everything you do.
Right.
And the first time that you aren't perfect, you feel like you let everybody down. Not realizing that generations and generations before you have failed.
Right.
Some of the greatest things on earth have come through failure.
Oh yeah.
So it's just realizing that we don't have to be perfect. And like you said, in this microwave society, we think we gotta have it right now. That's not how it works.
Yeah, or how God intended it.
Yeah.
Because you don't develop no character when you kind of just like step into. If you don't grow into a platform and you just step on the platform, that platform is gonna crush you because you haven't built the character to even handle that. You know that mantle to make it biblical. Another thing I think you said so many great things right there. I would say it's a blessing to have had to be able to hear that, because I like yearn to hear like it's okay, like you don't have to have it figured out, you know. I say it, and I've said it before, and I say it so many times, but like when I lost my dad, I also kind of lost my mom for a period, because there was such a big part of her, and so I yearn for just that affirmation, or that like the validation, like it's all right, girl, like you feeling. But see, in my head, it was like you said. You think like my parents were perfect. Like my daddy, he always just like he waving Tisdale. Like, you know, you can't tell me nothing. Cause my mama, not to take this turn, but she, you know, as I'm older now and I talk about marriage and stuff with her and motherhood, she will be like, "Girl, your daddy used to do this," and like, no, he did not. Like he was a saint from the time he was born. Don't you dare tell me nothing about Tisdale, baby. Okay. So, anyways, in all seriousness, though, I think that's such a blessing to be able to have that, because, yeah, I love that. Because it definitely was a thing for me, like, I'm horrible, like, and it was like, yep, you are, though. Nobody can be like,
turns out
you're pretty terrible. Okay. But no, so Staci, same question for you.
Okay. Something that I could tell my younger self, so kind of like Marcus, I think your journey, I think for me, I spent most of my 20s trying to validate my worth, like through my career or through assets, through salaries. I definitely had goals stacked up, like by 25 I gotta make this, by 30 I gotta make this, by 35 I gotta make this. And so I think you lose so much time when you're working towards so many goals and not being present. So I think I sacrificed a lot of time and just a lot of relationships not being present. So if I could say anything to my younger self, it would be time is plentiful, right? Because we are always hitting goals because we feel like it's not. You know, because people say time is short. You know, you don't know. You gotta. It's like the hustle and bustle of life, and I would definitely say I was motivated differently than probably y'all. Like y'all needed the affirmation to be like, oh, it's okay to fail, but I needed to be good, right? Like I needed to be perfect. I had a very I have a good relationship with my dad, but since he wasn't in the home with me, I always felt like I needed to be doing great so that he can be proud of me, right? So a lot of wanting to be his pride, or his pride and joy, it kind of like pushed me to be good. And then when I had a baby young, right? Like having a baby at 20, it felt like
because I was the first one to take that leap. Like, you pregnant?
Thank God. Thank God I'm the only one feeling her, right? I'm not the only one who's out here not doing what they supposed to do, right? So having a baby young, it was like a lot of disappointment, right? Like it was just like, dang it. So for me, it was like, now I gotta go harder, because now I gotta extra prove everybody else. Like I gotta prove that despite my baby, like I didn't take no time off of school when I had Kobe. Like I just kept going, and I think that like I had it in the summer.
Your food up and stuff for you, because you was like about to have a baby, like, I'm going to school, like
I couldn't, because I was still so like I would say connected, or just like anchored, if I may. Cuffed, if you will. Right? I was definitely like cuffed to like trying to validate my worth. And so just trying to validate my worth through, I said my career and stuff, but also like people's expectations, right? People's expectations of you. And so basically I would tell my younger self, like, time is plentiful and your purpose looks different in different seasons.
Oof, come on.
And so when you try to validate, like I think I went from validating my worth to like my career to now trying to validate my purpose, and not understanding that my purpose could look very different, and that my purpose isn't connected to a place. My purpose is more of a journey.
Yeah.
And so just being confident enough to know that like I can still be walking in my purpose and not be connected to this person or this thing.
Man.
So I could be talking to my younger self last year. I could be talking to my younger self at
10 minutes ago.
21,
Like,
right?
right.
So those are just a couple of things.
Right. I actually heard this talk by our cousin Hallie. And she was saying that, you know, we get so caught up in like or romanticize like the big goals and the big dreams and the big, like bigger the better type of thing. And she was like not realizing that when God gave me a dream and I executed, I was an artist then.
Yeah.
Like, at that moment, she said if I had 2 streams, if I had 2 million streams, it was already good to God. You know what I mean? And I think that like goes back to the world that we live in. It's like if we're not going viral, then that must mean the same. You know, and you know, there's nothing wrong with that. But I think that, you know, the Bible does talk about, you know, not despising humble beginnings. And I think that a lot of times, because of the world we live in, it's like we look at something that may be meaningful and have so much impact for 5 people and like change their trajectory of their life. And it's like, man, but it didn't have 5 million people, so I mean, nobody cares, and nobody cares. Like that's me. I'll go on the deep. Yeah, she pulls me up every single day. Just about, I'll be like, nobody cares. I mean, I'm ugly and stupid, and everything I do is stupid, and I just hate this. And it's like, girl,
that self-talk is so real, though.
Oh, girl,
like,
trust me, I've gotten so much better because
real.
I used to not like think it was. I used to think, I mean, it's just me saying this stuff to me. Like, I mean, who am I offended? Like, girl, but you are believing that about yourself. And that's also how you're showing up in these spaces for yourself. You can't have no business or no big goals or accomplish nothing big when you don't even believe, or you talk to yourself like you know, or you don't believe that you'll ever have, or you talk to yourself in a way that's like not setting you up for those success or for those to be successful in those spaces. Okay, so to wrap this conversation up, but I always ask everyone, this has been so great, and we could go on forever because when I'm comfortable with folks, let me tell you, I will keep talking. I get talking. But so with all that said, what then would you say is your recipe for life? Marcus, no swing. Are you one of y'all to answer?
I think my recipe for life is understand who you are, move at your pace, and don't worry about the outside distractions. I think when you do those things, no matter what's going on around you, no matter how bad you might think life is or how good you think life is, God has that plan for you, and that you're gonna move in His time and not your time. So understand, be one, talk with God, and have that understanding of where you're supposed to be, not where you think you should be, and everything will work out. Kind of loosen your reins and let Him work His will, and your life will be exactly not only what you think it should be, but it'll be 10 times more, because His plan always trumps our plan.
That is good. I just read in my Bible plan yesterday or the prayer part of it was like, Lord, please help me desire your will for my life, and help me to desire your promises or something like that. And I was like, oh my God, this is so good. I mean, it's so simple, but I think that as you grow up, you realize that like the little cliche simple things that your parents always told you are the big things. Like, oh, this stuff. Like, for example, like with my marriage, it would always be like, keep Christ in your marriage, girl. That's gonna be the anchor. And it's like, duh. Yeah. And then it's like, wait a minute, that's heavy. Like, because let me tell you, if I die into yourself and your own will on a daily, ain't easy, because y'all be stressing us out, Lord.
Hey, that's it. That's the one.
Yeah.
That's the one. So I'm trying to articulate it in a way that is concise.
Such an educator. In a way that's concise. I sound like Amy.
Well, I really am. I'm really trying to articulate in a way. So I actually heard somebody say it the other day, and I have begun to walk in it this season. I think Marcus can attest to it. I think you are a limited resource, and so for every yes you commit to, you're saying no to something else. And so being mindful of your yeses and your nos, especially if your yeses cost you your purpose, your rest, your health, your family. Be okay with the no's. If the yeses are withdrawing more from you than you can commit to.
That is really good. Phew, you said a word there, sister. Well, I am so happy that y'all are here. This conversation has been great. I actually have been able to learn more about Marcus and you. And I wish we could have dived into your divin is the word I'm gonna use. There we go. Into your divin, I like it better. Into your story, your love story a little more because it's fun.
Oh,
Sneaky
yes.
link.
Yes. Tiffany is so, where's the camera? Tiffany is messy. Marcus was not my sneaky link turned husband.
According to that picture.
Marcus was my friend turned husband.
She didn't even tell us nothing, bro. I was like,
what?
Y'all get married? What? Who is Marcus?
Like,
Bro.
I gotta let you meet the family. I'm like, you got a family?
Right. I thought it was just you and these kids.
You had me come to Tulsa this whole time for 3 years, and you have a cousin stay around the corner.
Around the corner.
Oh my gosh.
So now, this is no cap right here. At your bridal shower is when I first found out what your last name was gonna be. No cap. Me and Shanny was sitting there together like, what's his last name? I thought it was Burrell. I thought it was this.
In your defense,
Shanny, and then in those games he had us playing,
he
asked
changed
us
his
about the
last
girl.
name.
We don't know.
He changed his last name.
Yeah.
So nobody knew it was. That's why at the wedding, when he leaned over to whisper to his dad, it was a surprise.
Oh,
Which
we had no idea.
yeah,
What was going
so
on. We was like
nobody really knew
that, and then those games you had us playing like, tell us more about the groom. Girl, nobody gonna win this. Don't nobody know.
It was friends who knew.
It wasn't me, and I've been there. It was supposed to be me. That's all I'm gonna say. But anyways, I appreciate
Shift Tiffany to go.
in
her
character
true
energy. I need a shirt that says that
main character energy
at all times.
All times.
And I appreciate y'all for allowing space for that because you know. Anyways, thank y'all so much for being here. Thank y'all for tuning in.
Yes.
And we look forward to doing another episode of Recipe for Life. Bye.